When we talk about focusing on yourself, most people think it means isolating, becoming selfish, or turning your back on the world. But the truth is far more profound. To focus on yourself is to understand that you are not just a physical body moving through time. You are an energy field constantly interacting with everything around you. The thoughts you think, the emotions you hold, the beliefs you live by, they all carry energy. Whether you realize it or not, you're always broadcasting a signal. And that signal influences how life responds to you. This is why two people can walk into the same situation and have entirely different experiences. One person is internally calm, grounded, and self-aware. The other is reactive, fragmented, and unconscious. The external environment is the same, but their energetic presence shapes their reality in completely different ways. Why? Because you don't experience life as it is. You experience life as you are. Now, this isn't just a spiritual concept. Psychology confirms it as well. Cognitive scientists have found that our perceptions are heavily filtered by our mental states. When you're anxious, you only see threats. When you're at peace, you see opportunities. Your mental lens, your vibration, determines what becomes visible and meaningful to you. So when you focus on yourself, what you're really doing is tuning your internal frequency. You're adjusting your perception. You're refining your signal. Here's where most people go wrong. They try to fix the external world. They try to change others. They seek to rearrange their environment in hopes that something out there will bring peace in here. But energy doesn't work that way. Your inner state comes first. Your outer world is the echo. Think of it like this: your energy is the stone. The reality you experience is the ripple. And no ripple can change unless you drop a different stone. This is why focusing on yourself is the only sustainable path. It's not about shutting people out. It's about going inward to realign with who you are at your most powerful. When you begin to observe your own thoughts, question your own beliefs, and take ownership of your emotional state, you start reclaiming your energy. You start choosing your frequency instead of unconsciously reacting to everything. That's self-mastery. And with self-mastery, the world begins to respond differently. The deeper layer to understand here is that energy doesn't lie. You can fake confidence with words, with posture, with status. But energy reveals the truth. People can feel what's real, even if they can't explain it. That's why some people walk into a room and immediately shift the atmosphere. Not because they're loud, not because they're trying, but because their energy is aligned. And alignment cannot be faked. So if you truly want to change your life, stop chasing, stop forcing, stop pretending. Focus on yourself, meditate, breathe, reflect, learn to sit in silence without fear. That's where energy recalibrates. That's where transformation begins. The most powerful work you can do is invisible to the eye but undeniable in effect. We live in a world of noise, distraction, and illusion. But underneath it all, everything is energy. And the only thing you ever have full control over is yours. Real change begins not when you try to control the world, but when you learn to master the frequency you emit into it. We often think that the world is the source of our problems. That if only our job was different, if only people understood us better, if only circumstances were more favorable, then we could finally feel at peace. But the truth is, the outer world is rarely the real problem. It's merely a reflection of the state we carry within. When your internal world is filled with noise, doubt, fear, and distraction, the world outside will echo it back to you. Chaos inside becomes confusion outside. You see, the mind is like a lens. If the lens is dirty, scratched, or cracked, everything you look at appears distorted. It doesn't matter how beautiful or peaceful your surroundings are. You won't experience them clearly. What you're really experiencing is the condition of your own mind projected onto the world. So when we say, focus on yourself, we're not suggesting that you retreat from life. We're saying clean the lens, still the water, make the inside clear, and watch how the outside transforms. Inner clarity brings outer alignment. But when your thoughts are scattered and your emotions unprocessed, your energy becomes unstable. That instability radiates outward, creating miscommunication, tension, frustration, not because the world has changed, but because you are out of sync with yourself. You walk into situations already in conflict, already exhausted, already defending, and life mirrors back that unrest. This is why mastering your inner state is so critical. If your foundation is unstable, everything you build on it will feel uncertain. That's why people feel overwhelmed even when nothing bad is happening. It's not the world, it's the lack of stillness within. You're not tired because of what you're doing. You're tired because of how much energy you're leaking into mental resistance, overthinking, and emotional avoidance. There's a beautiful concept in Eastern philosophy that says, when the heart is calm, the path becomes clear. It doesn't mean the world becomes perfect. It means your perception sharpens. You stop reacting to noise and start responding from awareness. This is where real strength comes from. Not from trying to control others, but from bringing order to your own energy. The greatest warriors don't fight for control, they train for clarity. The practical implication is this. If you want to make better decisions, attract healthier relationships, or create a life of purpose, you must first bring stillness to your inner world. That stillness isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you cultivate. Through conscious breathing, solitude, self-reflection, and disciplined focus, you begin to settle the chaos. You begin to take responsibility for your state instead of blaming the environment. And the moment you do that, a shift begins. Not just in how you feel, but in how life responds to you. Conversations change, opportunities start to show up. You stop pushing and start receiving. Not because the universe has suddenly decided to bless you, but because your energy is finally coherent enough to receive what was always available. This is the true meaning of alignment. Not perfection, not control, but coherence. A state where your mind, heart, and energy are in harmony. From that state, you don't need to chase anything. You become the magnet. You become the calm in the storm. When you stop trying to fix the world and start refining the self, you'll realize peace was never something to find. It was always something to return to. Energy is not infinite. Your mental, emotional, and spiritual capacity, they have limits. And every day, whether you're conscious of it or not, before either conserving that energy or leaking it. Most people are exhausted, not because they are working too hard, but because they are giving too much of their energy to things that do not serve them. They're pulled in 100 directions, scattering their attention, reacting to noise, feeding distractions, and draining their power without even realizing it. Focus is not just about productivity. It is the purest expression of energetic discipline. To focus is to direct your life force intentionally. But in today's world, focus is under constant attack. Notifications, opinions, arguments, gossip, before like, fear-driven media. All of it competes for your attention. And attention is energy. Every time you give it away, you lose a piece of your strength. That's why protecting your focus is not optional, it's vital. Because wherever your focus goes, your energy flows. When you start paying attention to where your energy is leaking, like something shifts, you begin to realize how often you say yes to things that don't align with your values. How often you get emotionally involved in situations that don't need your reaction. How often you try to explain yourself to people who have no interest in understanding you. These are all forms of energetic waste. And over time, they create fatigue, confusion, even depression. Not because life is overwhelming, but because your boundaries are weak. Discipline, then, is not just about willpower. It is about conservation. It's the ability to say no. I'm not going to spend energy on what pleases me. It's learning to be intentional with your time, your mind, and your emotional space. This doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It means becoming selective. It means understanding that not everything deserves your attention. That not every battle is worth fighting. That silence can be far more powerful than 1,000 arguments. The ancient masters understood this well. They trained themselves to act with precision. No wasted movement, no unnecessary reaction. This is not suppression. It is presence. It is awareness. When you are present with your own energy, you begin to recognize what strengthens you and what weakens you. And with that clarity, you start to choose differently. You start to reclaim your power. Look closely at your day. Where does your energy go? What do you allow to access your attention? What kind of thoughts do you entertain repeatedly? If the answers don't align with your growth, then you are being drained. And drained people cannot grow. They cannot create. They cannot transform. So the first step is to stop the leaks. Cut off distractions. Withdraw from drama. Let go of the need to be seen, understood, or approved by everyone. Your life does not require external permission. It requires internal alignment. And that alignment begins when you say, I will no longer give my energy to what takes me away from myself. There is power in simplicity. When your focus becomes clean, your energy becomes potent. You don't need to do more. You need to leak less. You don't need to speak louder. You need to speak less often with more clarity. The world is already noisy, but when your inner space is still and undiluted, people feel it. That's when you become impactful. If you want to rise, don't add more. Remove what drains you. Energy conserved is power multiplied. We all want to change our lives, but very few are willing to take responsibility for their state. And yet, your state, the emotional and energetic atmosphere within you, is the one thing that determines the quality of every moment you live. Master your state, and you master your life. It sounds simple, but it goes much deeper than just feeling good or staying positive. This is about energetic sovereignty, the ability to hold yourself steady in a world that constantly tries to pull you off center. Most people live reactively. Their state is a reflection of circumstance. If things are going well, they feel good. If something goes wrong, they collapse internally. They give away their power to everything outside of them, to other people's opinions, to unexpected events, to fleeting moods. But here's the true thing. If your state depends on what's happening around you, then you are not free. You are enslaved by conditions, forever bouncing between highs and lows, never really anchored in yourself. Before the real work begins when you stop waiting for the world to calm down and start creating that calm within yourself. Because once you understand that your emotional state is a choice, not a reaction, everything changes. You begin to recognize the difference between stimulus and response, between feeling something and being consumed by it. This awareness is the beginning of mastery. And make no mistake, mastery does not mean you never feel pain, anger, sadness, or doubt. Before it means you no longer become those emotions. You observe them, you hold space for them, but you don't let them take the wheel. Because emotions are energy in motion. If you let them move through with awareness, they pass. But if you identify with them, if you cling to them or resist them, they control you. They shape your thoughts, your actions, and ultimately your destiny. So ask yourself, what emotional state are you practicing most often? Because whatever you practice, you become. If you're constantly practicing stress, frustration, impatience, then don't be surprised when that becomes your baseline frequency. Your nervous system begins to hardwire it. Your energy field starts to carry it, and the world begins to reflect it back. Now imagine training yourself instead to return to presence, to stability, to clarity, not as a performance, but as a practice. Through breath, through stillness, through conscious reflection, you begin to notice when you're slipping and you gently return again and again. That's what self-mastery looks like. Not perfection, but repetition. Not the absence of challenge, but the ability to hold your center when challenge arises. This is the foundation of all transformation, because from a grounded state, your decisions become clear, your communication becomes precise, your relationships deepen, your creativity unlocks. You stop reacting and you begin responding with intention. And that shift from reaction to response is the difference between surviving life and truly living it. We often chase success, love, peace, or power as if they are destinations. But in reality, they are byproducts of your internal state. Align the inner world and the outer world follows. But if your inner world is in disorder, no amount of external effort will compensate. You want to change your life? Start here, not out there. Sit with yourself, observe yourself, regulate yourself, choose your state. Because from that place, nothing outside of you can take you away from who you really are. When you master your state, you no longer adapt to life. Life begins to align with you. There's a concept that's been heavily romanticized in recent years, the law of attraction. People talk about it as if thinking positively or visualizing success will magically bring results. But this idea is often misunderstood. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. That's a subtle but profound difference. And it's rooted not in fantasy, but in energetic truth. Everything in this universe operates on frequency. Sound, light, emotion, thought, all are vibrations. So are you. Your body, your mind, your entire being emits a frequency based on your emotional and mental patterns. This is not spiritual poetry. It's energetic reality. And just like a tuning fork resonates only with certain tones, your life resonates only with experiences that match your current state. That's why focusing on yourself is essential. Because the only way to change your life is to change your resonance. You see, most people are fixated on the outcome. They want love, success, peace, power. But they're not willing to become the kind of person those outcomes naturally flow to. They wait. They chase. They manipulate circumstances, hoping the external world will deliver something that their internal world is not yet ready to receive. But life doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to your energy. Look closely. You may want peace, but are you peaceful? You may want truth, but are you living truthfully? You may want connection, but are you connected to yourself? The answer to these questions reveals your resonance, and this resonance is always being broadcast whether you're aware of it or not. You cannot fake it. You cannot bypass it. You cannot mask it with words or appearances, because at the energetic level everything is felt. This is why the inner work is non-negotiable. You must become the version of yourself that already lives in the reality you seek. That means elevating your thinking. That means dissolving old emotional patterns. That means acting in alignment even when no one is watching. Your frequency doesn't rise by accident. It rises through intentional living. And here's something even deeper. Resonance works both ways. When you raise your frequency, you don't just attract different experiences. You begin to repel the ones that no longer match you. This can be uncomfortable. Friends may fall away. Habits may become intolerable. The old life starts to feel foreign. But this isn't loss. It's refinement. It's life adjusting to your new level of consciousness. That's the hidden beauty of this path. You don't have to force things to happen. You don't have to chase validation or control outcomes. You simply become so energetically aligned that the right things begin to find you naturally. Not because you're lucky, but because you've changed the signal you're sending out. And the universe, like a mirror, reflects it right back. So when you focus on yourself, when you meditate, reflect, let go, grow, you're not being self-centered. You're tuning your instrument. You're refining your vibration. And in doing so, you shift not just your own life, but the field around you. You make resonance your strategy. And strategy based on energy is far more powerful than strategy based on force. You don't attract what you say. You don't attract what you wish. You attract what you embody. So the question is not, what do I want? The real question is, who am I becoming? The deepest form of influence is not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't come from trying to convince, control, or dominate. True influence arises from being, from the silent power of a person who has become energetically aligned, inwardly clear, and emotionally grounded. When someone enters a room with that kind of presence, everything shifts. Not because they speak, but because their state speaks louder than any words ever could. You don't have to try to be powerful when you are rooted in yourself. You don't need to perform confidence when you've built it from within. You don't need to impress others when you've already earned your own respect. That's the essence of energetic mastery. It's not about appearance, it's about frequency. And when your frequency is coherent, people can feel it. Even if they can't explain it, even if they don't understand why, they're drawn to it. Because resonance doesn't happen through logic. It happens through vibration. This is why the most impactful people are often the quietest in the room. They don't talk about discipline, they embody it. They don't preach peace, they radiate it. Their life is their message. And that's the goal. Not to chase attention, but to become the kind of presence that transforms people simply by existing in alignment. But here's what most miss. You cannot fake this. You cannot memorize a few quotes, put on a strong posture, or repeat spiritual phrases and expect your energy to shift. It doesn't work that way. Energy doesn't lie. The world may not always know what's true, but it always feels what's real. That's why your power is found not in how you present yourself, but in how deeply you've done the inner work. How much of your identity is grounded in truth rather than performance. To become this kind of presence, you must walk a very honest path. One that demands stillness, not stimulation. One that calls for consistency over drama. You must train yourself to choose awareness over reactivity, purpose over ego, and peace over chaos. Again and again, until it becomes your new baseline. This is not glamorous work, but it is sacred. Because each time you choose stillness over reaction, each time you choose solitude over validation, you are shifting your field. You're no longer just a body in the room. You become a force. And forces don't need to announce themselves. This kind of transformation doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from letting go of distraction, of ego, of comparison. The less noise you carry, the more clearly your essence can be felt. And that essence, when refined, becomes magnetic. Not in the sense of manipulation or performance, but in the sense that people begin to feel safe around you, clear around you, alive around you. Not because you gave them something, but because your energy reminded them of something within themselves. That's how real change spreads. Not through debate, but through demonstration. Not through power over others, but power over self. And the more you focus on refining yourself, the less you need to control anything around you. Your field will do the work. Your silence will speak. Your presence will teach. Become so aligned, so rooted, and so clear that your energy does the talking, even in your silence. That's the quiet revolution.